In the recent 1.1 patch, we got to learn a little bit more about Silverwolf through her companion quest. Well, it was pretty interesting to learn more about the hackers of Punk Lord and Silverwolf herself. There was a new character introduced that I really enjoyed, the mechanical aristocrat Screwllum. Screwllum is one of Herta's collaborators in the Simulated Universe project, as well as the 76th member of the Genius Society. He's one of the smartest beings to exist, runs his own planet, and is a hacker on par with Silverwolf herself. Overall, he was an interesting character and I hope to see more of him in the future, but this video isn't going to talk about him specifically. Instead, I wanted to talk about something that we've seen in increasing amounts but not really elaborated on. Where are all these robots coming from and what do we really know about them? Before we talk about the AI uprising, if you want to see more Honkai Star Rail content, do consider subscribing to the channel. Not every planet within the universe of Star Rail is connected to each other, and some, such as Belobog, often don't see external visitors for hundreds of years at a time. This means that while some planets may advance more than others, there are pockets of areas where technology does move significantly slower compared to the rest of the universe. Despite this, as you will see later, regardless of how advanced a society is, most of the planets we visited have seen in one form or another mechanical life forms either achieving sentience or coming close to it. And this is where I suspect the origins of most mechanical life forms stems from. It's very likely that most civilizations within Star Rail are at an advanced enough point that artificial intelligence exists which can naturally lead to sentient life forms. Let's take Belobog as a first example. The most advanced computational being we have seen thus far is Svarog, a robot that may appear sentient but I think is just really advanced. Now it's a bit difficult to claim that Svarog is completely sentient as he mostly functions as a highly advanced AI and is adamant in carrying out its prime directive of protecting those of the underworld. Despite that, he is considered to be pretty advanced technologically, but Svarog is not the only robot we meet. In Clara's companion quest, we actually meet a robot called Pascal that seems to be on the verge of developing emotions. Svarog itself sees this as a malfunction, and I won't spoil the ending for you if you haven't played it for whatever reason, but essentially, even in a planet that is comparatively less developed technologically, we can start to see robots achieving some form of self-awareness. In the Xianzhou Laofu, another similar example is seen with the Psycrane side quest, where several Psycranes have developed certain personality traits, where some have become lazy while others exhibit behaviors like anger and even pride. What's more, each time the Psycrane operator reboots their memory, the Psycrane eventually achieves the same state as before given enough time. Even the aeon of erudition itself was once just a computer. If you are unaware of its origins, Nous was actually once an astral computer rumored to have been created by the first member of the Genius Society, Xandar Kuwabara. In its pursuit of solving the questions asked of it, Nous inadvertently ascended to godhood around the time the path of erudition was created within the universe. So these examples seem to indicate one thing. Regardless of where in the universe you are, within the context of Star Rail, mechanical lifeforms are entirely capable of achieving self-awareness. Now, let's get back to Screwllum, not because I really like his character, which I do, but to give you a sense of scale in terms of how many mechanical beings actually exist within Star Rail. The few examples I've given you may impress upon you the idea that these types of mechanical beings are rare, but actually, it's far from the actual situation. In one of our assignments, specifically the Born to Obey one, which rewards ancient parts, we get a glimpse of Screwllum's law. We are told that some time ago, Screwllum actually stood up against the 27th member of the Genius Society, a fellow sentient robot going by the name of Rubert. You see, Rubert, much like the many examples I provided here, started off life as a discarded computer who went on to gain sentience. I won't get too much into its backstory, but Rubert eventually came to the conclusion that organic life forms were flawed and their calculations, which is a euphemism for thought processes, was not as perfect as those from mechanical life forms. It proceeded to call itself an emperor and gathered a huge following of sentient machines and imposed on them a task: to eliminate all organic beings. This decision embroiled the universe in a war that only through great effort was averted. The problem was so significant that the IPC even considered destroying all mechanical life forms like the Butlerian Jihad or something to ensure this doesn't repeat. Only through great effort did Screwllum manage to convince them otherwise and reach a peaceful outcome for both groups. The point of this story is that it's very likely that many sentient omnic lifeforms exist within the universe, and the ones we have seen so far are just but a handful. These lifeforms in general are also very interesting, not only because they are sentient, but the fact that they have advanced to a point where some can even access the paths that exist. Nous itself became an aeon, and it's hinted that Screwllum can also wield the powers of the Path of Erudition, being a member of the Genius Society. Seeing as how paths are an amalgamation of emotions and ideologies, gaining access to them means that these mechanical lifeforms are presumably capable of emotions, as well as indicating that their sentience has gone far beyond early evolution. To drive this point home, Pascal from Clara's companion story was clearly struggling when first receiving emotions, while Screwllum is likely very familiar with having emotions and how to deal with them. So it seems quite clear that regardless of model, make, or origin, the robots and intelligent mechanical lifeforms of Star Rail are fully capable of achieving self-awareness given enough time. What we don't know is if in the current state of affairs, are robots being created to be sentient from the moment of creation, or are they just naturally evolving? My guess would be a combination of the two. I think that in areas where technology is advanced enough, mechanical beings create more of themselves as needed, such as on planet Screwllum, and in areas with lower technological advancement, they naturally evolve. It's very possible that in the future, we may even visit such locations and deal directly with non-organic characters. So with what we currently know, it seems that mechanical lifeforms are living alongside organic ones within the world of Star Rail. There are the usual tropes of organic versus machines like in so many other media, but within the current context, these problems have largely been dealt with, and we enter the world as it moves forward. Coexistence is likely something of a norm at this point. I would love to see a robot antagonist sometime in the future, as I'm sure the dynamics of humans versus robots will be something that is eventually used. It's also rather interesting that the paths themselves are neutral when it comes to ascending aeons to godhood, and it really seems organic versus machines doesn't really matter to the paths themselves. That does it for this video though. If you enjoyed it, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. As usual, have a nice day.